Hello and welcome to Warfare Frontlines. If you're here for the real stories, the human element behind the grand strategies and the deafening noise of battle, then you're in the right place. We go beyond the headlines and the textbook accounts to uncover the gritty reality of conflict. If that sounds like the kind of history you've been searching for, the truth behind the front lines, not just the surface-level narrative, then I invite you to subscribe and join our community. We're dedicated to exploring the authentic, often overlooked aspects of warfare, and today's topic is a perfect example of that mission. In this video, we're peeling back a layer of World War II history that you won't find in most documentaries or museum exhibits. We're not talking about the grand tactics, the famous generals, or the medals awarded for bravery under fire. Instead, we're focusing on the quiet, ingenious survival habits that kept ordinary soldiers alive day after day. These aren't the items issued by the quartermaster. These are the personal, often improvised tools that made the difference between life and death when everything else failed. These were the secrets hidden in pockets and rucksacks, the unsung heroes of a soldier's kit. What's truly remarkable is how these forgotten methods remain incredibly relevant. The principles behind these World War II survival hacks are timeless, offering powerful lessons for anyone interested in modern-day preparedness, bushcraft, or simply understanding how to be more resourceful in a crisis. We'll be looking at the simple, everyday items that became lifelines on the battlefields of Europe and the Pacific. These aren't just historical curiosities. They are practical skills born from desperation and ingenuity, and they could very well help you one day. So, let's get into it. When you picture a soldier on the front line, you probably think of his rifle, his helmet, maybe his grenades. But one of his most vital, yet often overlooked pieces of kit was something far more fundamental: the ability to make fire. In the freezing mud of the Ardennes, or the damp jungles of Burma, a fire wasn't a luxury. It was the key to staving off hypothermia, cooking a warm meal, and maintaining morale. Official issue matchbooks were notoriously unreliable, quickly ruined by damp or crushed in a pack. So, the truly prepared soldier didn't rely on them alone. He carried his own, often homemade, fire starters. These weren't sophisticated gadgets. They were born of pure necessity and resourcefulness. A common method was to take small scraps of cotton, perhaps from a torn t-shirt or a cleaning patch, and thoroughly impregnate them with wax from a candle. This created a small, waterproof tinder that could catch a spark and burn long and hot enough to ignite damp kindling. Others would collect pine resin, that sticky sap from coniferous trees, and mix it with charred cloth to create a potent fire-starting paste. It was messy, but incredibly effective. Even discarded celluloid film from reconnaissance photos, which is highly flammable, was sometimes cut into strips and stored in a dry tin for this very purpose. The underlying principle here was redundancy and relentless testing. A soldier wouldn't just make one of these, he'd have several, tucked away in different parts of his uniform and gear. He knew that his primary method might fail, his matches might get wet, his lighter might run out of fuel. He would have tested his homemade tinder in the rain and wind, knowing that it had to work when conditions were at their absolute worst. It's a powerful lesson. Survival isn't about having the single best tool, but about having multiple proven options when your life depends on it. A fire starter that only works in perfect conditions is worse than useless. It's a liability. Next to a fire starter, perhaps the most undervalued piece of personal equipment was a simple sewing kit. It sounds almost comically domestic for a battlefield, doesn't it? A few needles, a spool of sturdy thread, maybe a couple of spare buttons, all tucked into a small pouch or an old tobacco tin. But to the soldier facing the elements, this little kit was a critical piece of survival gear. A tear in a jacket wasn't just a cosmetic issue. It was a breach in his defense against wind, rain, and freezing cold. In the depths of a European winter, an unrepaired hole could lead to frostbite or life-threatening hypothermia. Think about the sheer abuse a soldier's uniform and equipment endured. Crawling over rubble, pushing through thorny hedgerows, and constant marching would shred even the toughest fabric. A ripped pack could mean losing vital supplies. A broken strap on a pair of gaiters could lead to boots filling with mud and snow, causing trench foot. The sewing kit was the immediate action solution to all of it. A soldier could make quick, rough repairs in a foxhole, stitching up a tear in his trousers or reattaching a crucial button on his greatcoat, preserving his body heat and his ability to function. It was preventative maintenance in the most extreme environment imaginable. For modern survivalists, the lesson is profound. It's not enough to own expensive, durable gear. You must have the means and the skill to repair it when it inevitably fails. Owning a sewing kit is the first step, but the real wisdom from the World War II soldier is in the practice. They didn't wait for a life or death situation to learn how to stitch. You should practice making repairs in less than ideal conditions, with cold fingers, in low light, on awkward parts of your gear. That simple needle and thread represents a philosophy of self-reliance, the ability to maintain your most critical layer of protection against the elements when there's no one else to help. In the chaos of the front line, certain commodities took on a value far beyond their official worth. And, one of the most quietly hoarded and traded items was something we take for granted every single day: salt. Soldiers weren't carrying it to season their sea rations, though it sure helped with the taste. They carried it for survival. During intense physical exertion, especially in hot climates like North Africa or the Pacific Islands, soldiers would sweat profusely, losing not just water but critical electrolytes, primarily sodium. This loss could lead to debilitating muscle cramps, heat exhaustion, and a dangerous drop in performance. A small, waterproof container of salt became a soldier's personal medical supply. They learned, either through official training or more often, through the hard-won experience passed down from veterans, that simply drinking water wasn't enough to rehydrate effectively. In fact, drinking too much plain water after intense sweating could lead to a dangerous condition called hyponatremia. The solution was simple and brilliant. A pinch of salt taken with a canteen of water could dramatically improve water absorption and replenish what was lost through sweat, keeping the body's systems in balance. This was the original, improvised electrolyte drink. This knowledge was often informal, part of the unwritten soldier's code. They would add a little sugar from their rations if they had it, creating a primitive but effective oral rehydration solution. Veterans would advise new replacements to salt your water before a long march or an anticipated assault. It demonstrates a sophisticated understanding of body chemistry, learned not in a classroom but in the unforgiving laboratory of combat. For anyone today involved in hiking, sports, or any strenuous activity, this WWII secret is just as relevant. A small amount of salt can be a lifesaver, transforming plain water into a powerful tool for maintaining endurance and preventing dehydration. While every soldier was issued a standard first aid dressing, the smart ones knew it was only designed for one thing: stopping major bleeding from a gunshot or shrapnel wound. It was bulky and intended for catastrophic injury. But what about the dozens of smaller, non-lethal but equally debilitating issues that arose daily? Blisters, small cuts, infections, and persistent pain could take a soldier out of the fight just as effectively as a bullet if left untreated. This is where personal ingenuity came into play, in the form of the micro-medical kit, often housed in a repurposed metal tin, like one for tobacco, mints, or even a waterproof match case. Inside this pocket-sized infirmary, a soldier would curate his own collection of essential medical supplies. It wasn't about major trauma, it was about proactive care and problem-solving. You might find a few precious aspirin or sulfa tablets for pain and infection, carefully wrapped in wax paper. There would likely be a small blade, perhaps a single-edge razor, for lancing blisters or cutting bandages. A needle, sterilized in a flame, could be used for removing deep splinters that would otherwise fester and become infected. Small bandages or plasters were gold dust, used to cover cuts and prevent the dirt and filth of the trenches from causing serious problems. The philosophy behind this kit is what's so important. It's about accessibility and immediacy. A soldier couldn't wait for a medic to deal with a painful blister that was making it impossible to march. He needed to treat it himself, right there and then. This compact, personalized kit, always within arm's reach, empowered him to manage his own health and maintain his combat effectiveness. For modern preparedness, the lesson is identical. Don't just have a large medical kit in your car or at home. Have a small, well-thought-out boo-boo kit in your pocket or on your keychain, containing the items you're most likely to need for immediate, common problems. It's about having the right tool, right now. In the world of survival, the most valuable items are often those with the most versatility, and honestly, few things are more versatile than a simple strip of cloth. This wasn't an issued item, it was something a soldier would create himself, often by tearing up a worn-out shirt, a captured flag, or a piece of discarded parachute silk. These strips of fabric, stuffed into a pocket or wrapped around a rifle stock, became a multi-purpose tool that could solve 100 different problems. Their utility was limited only by the soldier's imagination and the desperate needs of the moment. Their most obvious use was medical. A clean strip of cloth could serve as an improvised bandage to cover a wound or a dressing to apply pressure. Rolled tightly and tied, it could function as a makeshift tourniquet in a dire emergency, a technique that undoubtedly saved countless limbs and lives before official tourniquets were widely available. It could be used to create a sling for an injured arm, immobilizing it and allowing the soldier to continue moving. Beyond medicine, the uses were endless. They were used to tie gear down to webbing, silencing rattles and clanks that could give away a position on a quiet night patrol. Soldiers used them to tie foliage to their helmets for camouflage, to create improvised grips on their weapons, or as trail markers when navigating dense woods. A strip of cloth could serve as a pre-filter for dirty water before boiling, or as a cord for securing a shelter. The lesson here is about seeing the potential in the mundane. A WWII soldier saw a torn shirt not as trash, but as a resource. We should train our minds to do the same. Take a simple bandana or a shema and practice its many uses. Learn to tie effective knots. See how many different problems you can solve with it. That mindset of seeing a tool where others see a piece of cloth is the very essence of a survivor. So there you have it. The fire starters, the sewing kits, the salt, the micro-med kits, and the simple strips of cloth. These weren't the tools that won the war in a grand sense, but they are the items that won thousands of individual, personal battles for survival every single day. They represent a way of thinking, a mindset of resourcefulness, preparedness, and quiet professionalism that existed far from the generals and their maps. It's a side of history that deserves to be remembered, not just for its own sake, but for the powerful lessons it holds for us today. The core takeaway from all of this is that survival was never just about being the strongest or the best equipped soldier. It was about being the most prepared, the most adaptive, and the most resourceful. It was the soldier who carried a dry tinderbox, who could mend his own gear, who understood his body's need for salt, and who saw a life-saving tool in a scrap of fabric, who had the edge. These men and women understood that true readiness begins with what you carry in your pockets, and more importantly, what you carry in your head. If this exploration of real history and practical survival insights is what you're looking for, please subscribe to Warfare Frontlines and share this video with someone who would appreciate it. The stories of these soldiers are a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Stay curious, stay prepared, and join us next time as we uncover more of the truth from behind the front lines. Thank you for watching.